Good and Erev Shabbos. Good morning. Hope you're all well. Today, this Erev Shabbos Chazon. Shabbos Participant, as you're all aware. Today's shiur is the Uli Nishmas Aranach B'Sel Cohen, the first Lema. Yisrael Baruch Aleh, Racha Bas B'Sazot, Racha Eliana B'Siyah Bracha, Aaron Yisrael Ben Risha, Chai B'Sel Bela, first Lema B'Sel Shar Chal Yisrael, and um, as a schus, Tzvi Noach Ben Bracha Rachalea, Sefer Bracha Matzlacha for him and his God's Mishpacha. Okay, here we go. Perek Gimel, we're in Sanhedrin, Perek Gimel, Mishnah Aleph. We are, okay, we're going back to, in Perek Aleph, we learned 2 days ago, we talked about the different sizes of courts needed to judge different types of cases. So we're going back to that topic. So Dine Mam Mishnah Al Dine Mamanis B'Shlosha. Monetary cases are judged by a court of three. So how are these judges chosen? The one litigant selects one judge for himself, and the other litigant selects another judge for himself. And the two litigants together, they select one more judge for themselves. This is according to the mayor. The Chachamim say Shnei Dayanin Borin Lahen Od Echad. Now that's not the litigants, but the two judges, the first two judges, they select one more judge for them. So one judge is chosen by, let's see, the plaintiff. One is chosen by the defendant, and those two judges then choose a third one who's like a neutral guy. One litigant can disqualify the judge selected by the other litigant, and the other litigant can disqualify the judge selected by the first litigant. That's doable. Different view. Mayor, that's according to the mayor. The Chachamim say, when can a litigant disqualify a judge? This man may be when he brings a proof that the judges are related to each other or to one of the litigants, or that they are otherwise ineligible to serve on a court. But in Hayek Sherem or Mumchin, but if they are eligible to try the case, or if they are experts, in a Yachal, the Paslan, that a litigant cannot disqualify them from hearing his case. Zeh posel Edav. So one litigant can disqualify witnesses brought by the other litigant, and the other litigant can disqualify witnesses brought by the first litigant. Different mayor. This is according to mayor. So this ruling applies in a specific case, namely where one litigant said that the groups of witnesses will that two groups of witnesses will come to court and testify for him. And after the first group of witnesses appeared, the second litigant, together with another man, testified that those witnesses are disqualified, whether they're related to each other or some other ways. So in this situation, even the second litigant succeeds in disqualifying the first witnesses, so he will not win the case because another group of witnesses are coming to testify against him. Since the second litigant has nothing to gain from disqualifying the first witnesses, his testimony against them is believed. So the Chachamim disagree. The Chachamim say, "Hey, Messiah, when can one litigant disqualify the witnesses of the other? This man who may be alayim raya shehen krovim opsul. He can bring proof besides his own testimony that they are related to each other or to one of the litigants, or that they are otherwise ineligible to testify, because not everyone is kosher for edus. But if they are eligible to testify, he cannot disqualify them through his own testimony, since even in the case presented above, it is possible for him to gain from disqualifying the witnesses. He might be biased against them, and his edus is therefore rejected. Omar Mishnah Beis. Amar lo, if one litigant says to the other, Nam analai Abba, my father is acceptable to me as our judge, even though he's a relative. Nam analai Avicha, or if he said, your father is acceptable to me as a judge, even though he's a relative. Naaman alai shlosha baka. Or if he said that three cattle herders are acceptable to me as judges, even though they are unfit to be judges at all because they are unlearned, the Amaratzim. If Meir says Yachalaxable, he can go back in his agreement and insist that this case be retried by eligible judges, even after the verdict was handed down by the judges that he selected. The Chachamim said, once the verdict has been handed down, he cannot go back on his agreement. Um, similarly, Chayav, Hayachayav, the claimant had to make her to collect the disputed money. Dor li if you swear to me by the life of your head that your claim is true, I will pay you. Meaning that the defendant agreed to pay even if the claimant makes only this type of shua, which is weaker than a regular shua. Meir says even after the claimant swore by the life of his head, the defendant can go back on his agreement and demand a regular oath. The Chachamim say the defendant cannot go back on his agreement after this oath was made. So what's done is done. Mishnah Gimel, the Elu Hein HaPostim. No, so we just mentioned that if they're disqualified, then they can't serve as a judge. So what are the psulim? Elu Hein HaPostim. These are some of the people who are ineligible to be judges or witnesses. I'm a Sachib Bekuvia, someone who plays dice for money, someone who gambles. Um, Gamblers are disqualified from serving judges or witnesses because they do not provide any benefit to society, and he's forbidden to busy himself except with learning Torah or doing chesed or by contributing to society by trading and and producing a product or service. The gamblers do not do any of these things. A person who leads such an empty lifestyle has no Yush Hashem, and therefore he is disqualified as a witness or a judge. Hamal v'beribis, someone who lends money on interest, um, is also puzzled because the Torah asks that, and when you're taking money and us away, and disregarding the halachas of the Torah, then you're out. People who raise pigeons for money, people who do business with Perish Shvius. Those are mentioned about like the little Shabbos or Kashrus or just I mean, those are probably puzzle to begin with, but Mr. Specific mentions these four. Rabbi Shimon says, originally, the Chachamim called them Shvius gatherers. They disqualified anyone who gathered a large amount of Shvius produce, even if he did not sell it. Misharabu Nasan. However, when the number of oppressive tax collectors increased and farmers needed to gather large amounts of Shvius produce to pay their taxes, Chazu, the cross and Soch Shvius, and the Chavim started to call them Shvius merchants. They disqualified only those who also sold the produce that they had gathered. On Rabbi Yehuda said, "Hey, Messiah, when are gamblers ineligible? This man saying that have umnus elahi when they have no occupation besides gambling. Aval yesh lehen umnus lo hi ksherin. or if they have an occupation besides gambling, they are eligible. Okay, the Elu, these things. So if they have another parnasa, then and they're gambling just for fun, then or like a side hustle, um, then he's not disqualified from Edus. Interesting. And Mishnah Dalet, the Elohim Krobin. These are the relatives that a person cannot judge or testify about. Aviv, Achi, the Achi, Aviv, Achi Imo, his father, his brother, his father's brother, his mother's brother. Balachos, Balachos, Aviv, Balachos Imo, Bal Imo, the husband of his sister, the husband of his father's sister, husband of his mother, who's not his natural father. So, I mean, his father, his aunts from his father's side, his aunt from his mother's side, and his stepfather. V'chamiv Regiso, his father-in-law, and his brother-in-law, and the husband of his wife's sister. Hein uveneim v'chasnehem, the people listed above, their sons and their sons-in-law, they're all included in this restriction that you cannot testify against. Chargu Levado, his stepson alone is included, but not his stepson's son or his son-in-law. Amar Yossi says, this Mishnah follows the view of Rabbi Akiva. Mishnah Rishona, but an earlier Mishnah taught Dodo Uben Dodo, that only relatives such as his uncle and his uncle's son are included in the restriction. According to this earlier ruling, the restriction applies only to blood relatives and not to those who are related merely through marriage. The Chal Haroy, the Yarsho, but only one who is fit to inherit a person after his death is disqualified from judging and testifying about him. Those who will not inherit him can judge or testify about him. The Chal HaKarav, and anyone who's a relative at the time of the event, he's disqualified from testifying about that event. Hayakarav Niswa, someone was a relative marriage before the event took place. He stopped being relative because his wife died or they got divorced or whatever. Harei Zakashi is eligible to testify about the event. So for example, a certain man was a man, then if the daughter had died before the event took place, related to her father at that time. If Yehuda says, "Afilu Mesa Bito Yishlo Banan Imana Hareza Karov," even though his daughter died before the event took place, if her husband has children from her, he's still his father-in-law's relative, and is therefore disqualified from testifying about the event. Mishnah Hey, the friend and the enemy of a litigant cannot judge or testify about him because they are biased. Always there, Shushbino, his friend is his groomsman, meaning a good, is the best man from the wedding. Sone kol davar shlo di, Sone kol shlo diber imo shlosha yamin be'eva. His enemy is anyone with whom he did not speak for 3 days out of hatred. A lot of people don't talk for long periods of time. Because life is busy and they don't have time to talk to everybody. But if somebody you're not talking to somebody for 3 days out of hatred for the guy, that's called an enemy. Amrullah, they said to him, "Lo nachdu Yisrael al-kach." The Jewish people are not suspected of this. False aids out of love or hatred. Therefore, even the litigant's friend or enemy can testify about it. Mishnah Vav. Mishnah Keitzabokin as Ha'id. How do the judges to examine the witnesses? How you make this and also the judges bring them into the courtroom and make them afraid of testifying falsely. they caution the witnesses by telling them that when witnesses take money to give false aiders, even the person who paid them looks down upon them. So they give the example of the witnesses who were hired by by Izebel, who was the wife of Achav, the one of the Malchi Israel, and they were hired to testify falsely against Navos Israeli. And so even the royal advisors suggested hiring the witnesses, referred to them as two corrupt men, and I was and as is taught in Malachim Aleph. Just learned this a few weeks ago, so pretty cool. Um, yeah, okay. So once they bring in these these witnesses into the courtroom, they send everyone else out of the courtroom, others, and leaving only the senior witness there, but only low, and they say to him, Amar the defendant owes money to the plaintiff. Im Amar, if the witnesses answer who Amali Shani Chaylo, the defendant said to me that I owe the money to him. He said with his own mouth. Ish Ploni Amar Li Shu Chaylo, or the witness said answers. So and so told me that the defendant owes money to the claimant. Lo Amar Klum. Now the witness has said nothing. That is his testimony is worthless. His testimony cannot be used unless he says the defendant admitted to the claimant before us and he owes him 200 zuz. Had to be done in front of Aiden. So afterwards, they bring in the second witness and examine him as above. In its in them if the statements of the two witnesses are found to be consistent, the judges discuss the case. If two judges say the defendant is not chayiv, and one says he is chayiv, he is not. He's not chayiv. Shnayim Omer Chayiv. Two judges say that the defendant is Chayiv. Echad Omer Zaka. One says he's not Chayiv. Then Chayiv, he is liable to for the penalty. Echad Omer Zaka. Echad Omer Chayiv. One judge says he is not Chayiv. The other one says he is Chayiv. Afilu Shnayim Zakin or Shnayim Chayivin. Or even if two judges find him not Chayiv, or two find that he is, Omer Ein, and the third one says, I don't know. Yosimu Hadayanan, judges are added to the court. Since this third judge cannot vote because he doesn't know, he's undecided, he is not regarded as a judge at all, and therefore you have to add on more judges because a monetary case cannot be decided out with a court of fewer than three judges. Mishnah Zion. Excuse me. Gamras Hadavar, when they have decided the case, so they they bring in the litigants into the courtroom to hear the verdict. Then the head judge says, Ish Ploni Atazaka, so and so you are not chayev. Ish Ploni Atachayev, or he says, so and so you are chayev. From where we know that after one of the judges leaves the courtroom, he may not say to litigant, I found you not, I found you Potter, not liable, not guilty, and my fellow judges found you liable. What can I have done? My fellow judges outnumbered me. Concerning this, it says in the pasuk, do not go about gossiping among your people. And it said, that he goes about gossiping, he reveals secrets. Like the assembled people there, the litigants and everyone else have to know that this is how Basin decided, but they're not supposed to know who who voted in particular. And this is kind of modeled nowadays by by a jury. The jury is a whole different thing, but the jury votes in secret, and when they reach a, a verdict, they they sh they share it as the entire jury, and they don't disclose which jury member voted for in favor of what. But um, not to confuse it with the Jewish court system. Mishnah Ches tells man shemesh raya whenever a litigant brings evidence that supports his claim, even after the verdict was issued. So serious a din, the court undoes its verdict and issues a new verdict in its favor. Amalo, if the judges had said to him, "Kol raya sheyesh lecha have mikan ad shloshim yom." Any evidence you may have to support your claim, bring it within 30 days. The halacha is that if he finds evidence within 30 days, the court undoes its verdict. But if he does not find evidence until after 30 days, then the court does not undo its verdict. All right, Rishim Ben Gamliel says, Maya says, what should the litigant do if he could not find evidence within 30 days? And then found it after 30 days. So he loses the case just because he was unable to find the evidence before the deadline. The fact is that now he has proof and the court has no right to ignore it. Love, the judges said to a litigant during the trial, however, aid didn't bring witnesses to support your claim. And he replied, I have no witnesses. Or if they said to him, Havi Raya, bring a document as evidence. So Amar, and he replied, Ainli Raya, no, I had no document to bring as evidence. And he later brought a document as evidence or found witnesses to testify on his behalf. I raised it in the klum. It is nothing. Since he said that he had no proof, we suspect that he forged the document or he had hired witnesses to testify falsely. Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel, Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel said, "Ma yasez shelo haya yodea sheyesh lo edim amatz edim." What should he do if he did not know that he had witnesses and later found witnesses? Lo haya yodea sheyesh lo raya amatz, right? Or if he did not know that he had a document as evidence and later found the document as evidence, he might have been truly unaware of the witnesses or the document, and so the court may not suspect him of having provided the witnesses or forged the documents. Amalo, they said to him, "Hey, we aid and bring witnesses to support your claim." Amar, and he replied, "Ainli aidim, I have no witnesses." Havi raya, or they said to him, "Bring a document as evidence." For Amar, and he replied, "And he's right. I have no document to bring as evidence." Rush then, and then when he saw that he was about to be found liable in the judgment, Amar Kiru Ploni hey doing. He said, so and so and so and so should come forward and testify for me. Oh Shahotzi Raya Mitoch so, or he produces a document as evidence from inside his belt. I raise it and a klum. This is nothing, since he had the witnesses or the documents close at hand. And then he told the court that he had no proof. The proof is presumably false, and is producing it now in a desperate effort to avoid losing the case. And that's all for today. Have a wonderful Shabbos, and we'll continue on Sunday with Perek Dalit. Have a great Shabbos.